Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack a multi-billion-dollar industry and really just boil it down to one single kind of jaw-dropping question.
Which is, how is this still happening?
Exactly. So we're going to start with a scenario that, it sounds like it's ripped straight out of some 1950s horror film.
Right. But the thing is, it's not history.
No, not at all. It's happening right now, maybe in a clinic just down the street. So here's the hook for you. What medical treatment costs a truly staggering $2,000, maybe $2,500?
Per session.
Per session. And it's not only still performed in America, but it's also paid for by your tax dollars through, major systems like Medicaid, Medicare, and the VA.
And that price tag is really the key to the whole thing. This is part of a massive business model. Our sources just kept using the term cash cow.
Right. And it's not a one-and-done treatment, is it? It's not like fixing a flat tire.
Not at all. A standard course is something like 12 sessions in the first month alone.
12.
And after that, you're looking at ongoing maintenance treatments. Sometimes every 3 weeks, pretty much indefinitely. If you structure a business on long-term dependence.
You've got a very profitable system. It really makes you wonder who's benefiting, doesn't it? Is the incentive to cure or just to continue?
That's the question.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because we are diving into a therapy that some medical experts, and we're talking modern experts, have called the second worst treatment in medicine.
Right behind a lobotomy.
Only slightly better than a full-on lobotomy. The treatment is, of course, electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT. Most people probably know it by its less soothing name.
Shock therapy. And the shocking part isn't just the name, it's the mechanism itself. We have to be really blunt about what ECT actually does.
So tell us what happens. What's the process? Because it sounds unbelievably barbaric.
The process is, well, it's pretty simple. They put 150 volts of electricity through your brain.
150 volts.
Yep. And the goal is to intentionally induce a grand mal seizure. For anyone who doesn't know, that's basically a full system short circuit. Just massive, uncontrolled electrical activity across the entire brain.
So they're trying to trigger an epileptic fit on purpose.
That is the entire point of the procedure, yes.
And 150 volts, that's not static shock from a doorknob. That is a serious systemic overload aimed at the most complex organ you own.
And what's really striking is just the sheer amount of energy. The sources say they use about 500 to 800 milliamps over 8 seconds.
What does that mean in, real-world terms?
It means we're talking about an amount of electrical energy powerful enough to stop a human heart. And they're putting it directly onto brain tissue.
It's designed to just completely overwhelm the system. But, okay, here's the other major shocker that the source material pointed out. Who's actually getting this treatment?
Right. It's not who you'd think. It's not just, severely catatonic adults in some specialized ward.
No.
No, absolutely not. We're talking about ECT being given to children as young as 8 years old.
Wait.
8?
8 years old. Also pregnant women, and get this, it's even listed as a treatment for women with severe PMS.
You're kidding me? They are electrocuting the brains of 8-year-olds for what? And pregnant women.
They are inducing traumatic artificial seizures in those people. And this is where it gets really dark, because the United Nations has specifically called forced ECT on minors a human rights abuse.
They compared it to torture.
Exactly. Torture.
So on the world stage, it's viewed as torture. But here in the U.S., we're calling it therapy and billing Medicare $2,500 for it. That just feels like a huge disconnect.
It's a massive one. And if the process itself is disturbing, let's get into what is probably the deepest, weirdest rabbit hole we found. And that's the scientific blind spot at the very core of this whole thing.
This is where it gets really unsettling for me. For a therapy that's been used for decades, makes billions of dollars. You would assume it's been vetted to the highest possible standard, right?
You would assume, but you'd be completely wrong.
The biggest controversy is that this therapy has never actually been scientifically proven to work. Not by the gold standard of medicine. There have never been any definitive, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials on its efficacy.
That's insane. Every pill I've ever taken, even just an ibuprofen, has to pass that test. You have to prove it works better than a sugar pill. How does a procedure with 150 volts just get a pass on that?
Well, the argument is that it's technically hard to do. There's no real placebo for a seizure, right? You either have one or you don't.
I guess.
But the lack of any rigorous, independent science is just staggering for something this invasive.
And what's even weirder is they don't even know why it works. when they claim it does. There's no accepted mechanism.
None. One of the main theories for its use in depression is that well, it simply makes you forget that you even had depression in the first place.
So it's not a fix, it's a hard drive crash.
Pretty much.
That's the ultimate short-term solution, isn't it? The
Mhm.
depression is still there, the underlying chemistry is still off, but your brain's access file to that suffering is just gone. Corrupted.
It's like your check engine light is on, so you just smashed the light with a hammer until it goes, see? Fixed it. And then you charge him thousands of dollars.
That's a perfect analogy. If success is defined by amnesia, you have to really question if healing is even the goal.
Which takes us to the regulatory side. I mean, how is this even legal if the data is this murky?
It's a perfect bureaucratic loophole. ECT was never really FDA approved. It was grandfathered in.
Grandfathered in.
Yeah, it existed before they had rigorous standards for medical devices, so it was just allowed to stay on the market. It's like institutional inertia.
So this super invasive $2,500 therapy is basically like an old rusty appliance that gets to stay because it was built before modern safety codes.
Exactly. And in 2018, the FDA did act, but they just downgraded it. They moved it from a high-risk Class 3 device to a moderate-risk Class 2.
Okay, for people listening, what's the difference? Class 3 versus Class 2?
Class 3 is the highest risk stuff. Think pacemakers, things that can kill you if they fail. They need tons of pre-market approval.
Right? Class 2 is moderate risk, like a motorized wheelchair. So by moving ECT to Class 2, they're basically saying it's less dangerous than a pacemaker.
Despite all the evidence of, permanent brain damage, that feels convenient.
It feels very convenient, especially when you look at the documented consequences. Which brings us to the next section, the traumatic brain injury diagnosis.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because when you went through the sources, what stood out to you about the permanent effects?
Just how unsubtle the damage is. We're not talking about a headache. We're talking about severe, lasting, structural brain damage.
Structural damage.
Yes. Damage that a neurologist, Dr. John Feinberg, said way back in 1977 is indistinguishable from damage caused by severe head trauma.
So getting ECT is basically the same as getting in a bad car wreck or having a major fall, neurologically speaking.
Exactly. You are inducing trauma, not therapy. The damage involves swelling, inflammation, and that leads to what's called neuronal death.
Which is just a fancy way of saying.
It kills brain cells. The procedure is actively killing your brain cells.
And even though the shock is on the brain, the body's all connected, right? I saw reports of heart attacks, cardiac arrest. How does that happen?
It's totally systemic. The brain is the master control center for everything. So when you hit it with that kind of uncontrolled electrical force, it can trigger fatal cardiac arrhythmias.
Wow.
And besides heart attacks, we're talking a highly increased risk of suicide after the treatment, massive damage to your DNA and mitochondria, and yes, even death.
But the cruelest part seems to be the memory toll, the thing that hits your actual identity.
It's a direct hit. The therapy physically shrinks the hippocampus. For everyone listening, that's like your brain's save button for new memory.
So when that shrinks,
Patients experience permanent global memory loss. But it's more than that. They report losing their personality, their sense of humor, their creativity.
they lose themselves.
They do. One former practitioner in our sources said that the resulting state wasn't recovery. He called it, quote, traumatic brain injury.
A traumatic brain injury. And we're giving this to people on purpose.
There was one anecdote that was just awful. Patients reported feeling completely lost in their own homes or having the last 4 years of their life just be a total blank.
That's not just erasing a memory, that's erasing a person. And this brings us to the big, obvious question, the elephant in the room.
Why?
Yeah, why are we rushing to this drastic taxpayer-funded procedure without looking at the basics first?
The sources are pretty clear. The practitioners administering ECT are almost never looking at the simple stuff. They're not looking at diet. They're not looking at nutritional deficiencies.
They're just going straight for the highest voltage setting. It's like your car is sputtering because it's out of oil, and the mechanic solution is to just replace the entire engine.
It's a spectacular failure of basic medical triage. And the sources list some very simple, natural alternatives that are, as they put it, a lot less barbaric.
And a lot less profitable, I'm guessing.
I think that's a fair guess.
So before we consider melting our hippocampus, what are some of these starting points?
Well, the brain is an organ, right?
Mhm.
It needs fuel. So monitoring basic things like vitamin D, your B vitamin levels, and your omega-3s.
And why are those three so important?
Vitamin D helps regulate mood. B vitamins are essential for making neurotransmitters like serotonin. And omega-3s literally form the structure of your brain cells. If you're deficient, your brain just can't function properly.
It's like building a skyscraper without steel beams and then wondering why it's shaky.
Perfect analogy.
Hmm.
And beyond that, they mentioned things like a low-carb diet or intermittent fasting, which can help by regulating insulin and reducing inflammation, which is hugely linked to mental illness.
These are steps that empower the patient, not damage them.
Exactly.
So let's just recap. We have a multi-billion-dollar taxpayer-funded treatment. It has no double-blind trials to prove it works. Its main mechanism is maybe just making you forget you were sick. And the side effects include permanent brain damage and death.
And we call it therapy.
And we charge insurance $2,500 a pop for it. It creates a really serious disconnect between medical practice and medical ethics, doesn't it?
It does. And the sources had a pretty strong message here. They basically said, if you agree this treatment is barbaric, the way to make a change is to petition your state representatives.
Because the regulation happens locally.
A lot of it does, yes. And that's where you can push back against this multi-billion-dollar status quo.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. If the success of a treatment for depression is measured by the patient forgetting they were ever depressed, does that truly count as healing? Or is it just a medically induced reboot? Something for you to mull over.